Assalamu alaikum, dear students of grade 8 biology. Good morning. Welcome back again. I hope for you good day. Today, inshallah, we'll start to take a new lesson about cardiovascular health. During this lesson only, we'll start to study the cardiovascular disease. Inshallah, next period we'll continue and we'll start to study how can you maintain cardiovascular health. Before that, let us read this story. My planning diary. Every little bit counts. Winston School, Short Hills, New Jersey. You may think that heart disease affects only adults, but it can affect you too. In 2008, students from more than 15,000 schools in the United States took an active role in fighting heart disease. They participated in Hoops for Heart. This fundraising program enables students to practice basketball skills, learn how to have healthy, active lifestyle, and have fun all at the same time. Although their school is small, students from the Winston School in Short Hills, New Jersey, raised $9,000 to support heart disease research. The students were nationally recognized for their fundraising efforts. Here, discuss the questions with a partner. Write your answer below. Why is Hoops for Heart an important program? Why? Because it teaches the students how to prevent heart disease. Help the students to know how can they prevent heart disease. Of course, here this boy playing basketball. Of course, exercises, sports to be active, prevent from heart disease. Now let's start. We'll start with cardiovascular health. Our objective, student will identify cardiovascular disease. Today we'll start two diseases that affect on cardiovascular. Before we start, what is a cardiovascular disease? Cardiovascular disease consists of from heart, blood, and blood vessels that deliver many things like nutrients, oxygen, and take away wastes from blood to other systems. So the cardiovascular diseases, including two diseases that will study, atherosclerosis and hypertension. Atherosclerosis and hypertension. Before we start, let's remember the structure of the arteries vessel. Arteries vessel consists of from three layers. The inner one, made up of epithelial tissue. The middle one from soft muscles. Soft muscles here allow to the arteries to narrow and widen. The outer layer made up of from connective tissue. Now, in some conditions, especially who eating so much fat material, heavy food, later in some conditions, these arteries will becoming narrow and narrow. Why? Because the building up of fatty materials like cholesterol, so causing a disease that we call atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a condition in which an artery's wall thickens as a result of building of fatty materials in such cholesterol. That means we know the arteries stick to what to carry out or to support the forces of blood pressure. But in some conditions, more materials will make the walls of artery to thick, again to be thicker and thicker, that causing to the area here to be narrow and narrow, finally causing to the blood to block. This disease we call it atherosclerosis. So atherosclerosis is a condition in which an artery wall thickens as a result of buildup of fatty materials such as cholesterol. Look at the picture here. Here we have normal cut section of artery. Here normal section. If you start to eat so much fatty food, for example, the wall of what? Of artery start to be thickened. Why? Because this material like cholesterol start to build up the wall of arteries here. Here an artery wall, fatty materials here is deposited in vessel wall, start to build up here in vessel wall, causing final to artery becoming very narrow, very narrow. So here narrowed artery becomes blocked by blood clot. This disease or the building up of fatty materials around the artery wall causing narrow arteries. Finally it finished with blocked by blood clot. This disease we call it atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis. Now, a thickened artery wall results in reduced flow of blood and therefore a decrease in oxygen moving through the artery. Of course, as I said to you here, finally, the atherosclerosis disease or narrowed arteries becomes blocked by a blood clot. That means block the artery, not allow to the blood to do its job to carry oxygen and to carry oxygen from lungs to heart to body cells, or to carry away wastes from cells of the body to the other system, to remove it outside the body. So here, as a building up of fatty material around the wall of artery, reducing from the flowing of blood and therefore a decrease in the amount of oxygen that moving through the artery, that causing finally to the cells to start to die. Now, of course, atherosclerosis can develop in the coronary arteries, which can lead to heart attack. Now I will talk about the heart attack. Before I'm talking to the heart attack, we studied the main artery that moving from the heart and carrying the blood from the heart. We called it aorta. This one, aorta. This aorta, I said to you, later branches into many or descended into many smaller arteries. I said to you, one of the branch that descended from aorta, we called it here, this branch, we called it coronary. We called it coronary. Coronary. Here we have right coronary, descended from aorta. Also here we have left coronary artery. Here left coronary artery. This one, if the fatty material start to build up on the walls of coronary arteries, that causing to the flow of the blood that flow of the blood that carry oxygen to the cells of your heart and tissue of your heart start to reduce. That causing to the cells in your heart to start to what? To die. That causing to your heart to stop working or lead to heart attack. So in heart attack, which occurs when blood flow to part of the heart muscle is blocked, causing cells to die. As you can see here, we have left coronary arteries that descended from aorta, and we have right here coronary artery that descended also from aorta. When these coronary arteries, start to be narrow because of the building up fatty materials, start to be narrow, is building up or block, building up fatty material. What's happened here? The amount of blood that flowing into the cells of your heart becoming less. Also, the amount of oxygen will be less, that causing to the finally to the cells. Of course, not all the cells of your heart, the part here of your cells in your heart to die, that causing or lead to the heart attack. Look at the picture here. Here we have normal heart, and here we have left coronary arteries that causing here the cells of your heart die. Here right coronary arteries, and here we have left that descended. Look at the right descended from aorta, and the left coronary artery descended also from aorta and branches to the branches between the heart tissues. As you can see here we have what? Here fatty material that start to building up around the left coronary artery, start to what? To block the blood from reaching to this area, that causing to this area to start to die because of the oxygen or less amount of oxygen. This causing heart disease. This tissue start to death. Pulmonary arteries that moving from heart to the lungs. As you can see here, heart attack is a disease resulting of blocking in the coronary arteries, maybe in left, maybe on right, that causing to the blood not flowing well, that causing to the amount of oxygen to be less, that causing finally to the some cells or some tissues of your heart to start to die. I hope for everyone to be in health, inshallah. Now, how we can treat or prevent atherosclerosis from happening? Of course, treatment from atherosclerosis including low fat or diet. You have to eat green plants, or you have to eat low fat food. Do your exercises always, especially in early morning. Take your medication in time. If you have or if you need surgery, no problem. Here surgery depending on the severity of the condition. Now finally, if the person cannot carry or becoming in danger, doctor of course the doctor decided surgery for him to open or to fix the arteries that cause a block to the blood. So the treatment from atherosclerosis include low fat diet, exercises, medications, or surgery depending on the severity of the condition. Now, remember that blood pressure is a force at which your ventricles, left and right, relax and contract. So the force that applied on the walls of artery because of contracting and relaxing your ventricle. Also, we studied we can use a device to measuring the blood pressure. Here we have a cup, and we have here watch or measuring watch to tell us the values of blood pressure. The first beating, this is the sound of ventricle contracting. Ventricle contracting, this one. The other one, this value represents the ventricle when it relaxes. Remember, the health adult, or his blood pressure or her blood pressure about 120 over 80. Over 80. What's happened now if this value change, or if any disorder coming to this value or to your blood pressure? Now we have another disease we call hypertension. Hypertension is disorder in which person's blood pressure is consistently higher than normal, defined as greater than 140 over 90. So hypertension meaning disorder in blood pressure. In blood pressure. That means the person suffering from what? High blood pressure. High blood pressure. Of course, hypertension causing to your heart to working harder and harder, harder and harder to reach the blood to the faraway part from your body. But this hypertension or this movement, or when you're walking harder and harder, cause the force that applied on the walls of arteries maybe start to damage the blood vessel, damage the blood wall arteries, the blood wall arteries, or the wall of arteries. So hypertension, because of the disorder in blood pressure, maybe your heart will beating harder and harder. This force would the force that released by ventricles of your heart will start to affect on the walls of arteries, start to damage the walls of arteries, that causing later to start the blood to block in some arteries and causing vascular or heart attack and so on. That means the hypertension and heart attack are closely related. Closely related. As the arteries narrow during the atherosclerosis, the arteries narrow, that causing to the blood to the heart, that causing to your heart to work harder, beating more, to allow to the blood to move or reach to the other parts of your body, that causing to the force to damage wall of arteries, wall of arteries. So that means as arteries now, blood pressure increases. Very important. As the arteries narrow, blood pressure increases. If hypertension is mild, regular exercises, if you have a little bit of hypertension or high in the values of blood pressure, you can do some exercises and be careful from your food, including limiting intake of sodium, especially sodium chloride, because sodium chloride allow to your heart to beating harder and harder. Many people with hypertension require medication to lower their blood pressure. That means, I'll summarize. Hypertension, disorder in blood pressure. Atherosclerosis related to the building up of fatty material like cholesterol on the walls of arteries. Now, before that, I need from you to hear the heart beating. Now, this sound of heart beating during atherosclerosis and hypertension. Listen carefully. As you can hear, the heart try to beating harder to reach the blood to other parts of the body, because here we have a narrow arteries because of building up the cholesterol or fatty material on the wall of arteries. Now, watch this video again. Here to summarize.
Cardiovascular disease, or CVD, refers to a variety of problems with the heart or blood vessels, including heart attacks, heart failure, and stroke. Together, they are the #1 cause of death globally, estimated at nearly 18 million deaths in 2015 and rising. Initial symptoms such as unexplained chest pains or exhaustion after only moderate physical exertion are frequently ignored, and thus many patients are only treated after suffering a heart attack or stroke. The aim of the EU-funded project CISFASC was to use a systems medicine approach to better understand the development of CVD and to find so-called biomarkers for it. Researchers hope that by using a comprehensive collection of clinical and experimental data to generate computer models of the disease, they could identify novel molecular targets suitable for early disease prediction. In many cases, cardiovascular disease is caused by the chronic inflammatory condition atherosclerosis. Due to unhealthy eating habits and a lack of exercise, deposits of fat, cholesterol, and other substances present in the blood build up over many years inside the arteries. White blood cells are attracted, triggering an inflammatory process. Over time, the resulting plaques cause the arteries to narrow and harden, obstructing blood flow. However, not all patients appear to have stable plaques, which build up and eventually limit blood flow. Some patients suffer from unstable plaques, which pose an additional threat. Unstable plaques are prone to sudden rupture, which causes local blood clotting and may even completely block vessels. If this happens in the coronary artery, the heart may become starved of oxygen, resulting in the death of cardiac muscle cells and heart attack. Physical exercise and a healthy diet prevent all forms of CVD, while drinking and smoking are risk factors. As atherosclerosis progresses, patients are increasingly exhausted after physical exertion, while severe cases cannot participate in everyday activities, like walking uphill. Currently, clinicians do not fully understand why CVD progresses faster in some patients than in
Now this situation here show you here the healthy one that running very well. Here the healthy one running but getting tired because the cholesterol start to building up on the wall of artery. Here he cannot run or walk because his heart not working harder.
Exhausted after physical exertion, while severe cases cannot participate in everyday activities, like walking uphill. Currently, clinicians do not fully understand why CVD progresses faster in some patients than in others. We know from studying tissue that unstable plaques have a thin fibrous cap over a large lipid core, while stable plaques have thick fibrous caps that prevent premature rupture. Modern therapeutic options are available for patients with CVD to reduce the risk of plaque progression or rupture. But how can we identify the patients who would benefit from such a treatment? Diseased arteries and plaques release molecules into the bloodstream.
Finally, I hope from you to understand. Please, your homework, page 125 and page 126. I hope for you good times. I'll see you in next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.